Hey everyone, today we're going to build an expense tracker using AI to read most of the billings and documents that we need for this process. So we are going to show you how to set everything up and also how to create this process using AI for the billing or document readings. And basically, what we're going to do is structure this process, create an app, and also it's going to be in a way that you're going to upload a document, and the table will have the information of that document because the gesture vision or attachment vision field will do all the work for us. So I believe that's the everything that we're going to build today, correct, Cruz?
Yeah, so the idea here is to build a basically an app which has a Kanban board and in which you can submit expenses. So the idea here is that you have some kind of validation, right? So someone submits an expense with a receipt, and then someone probably from the finance team is going to look at it and see if everything is according to like internal policies and things like that. The most important part of this live stream is to show AI in basically two parts of the process, right? So the first part is building the process, building the app itself. So the idea here is to use AI to create the menu, the Kanban board, the forms, so we can already have a functional app just by describing it. So this is the first part of the process. And the second part, which is very nice, it's very cool to see, is using AI to automatically read the information from the document. So you can use the AI to read information from a receipt or from an invoice or for basically any other kind of document that you want. In this case, we'll be using receipts for the examples, but you could structure this to use different information, different documents for this process, right? So the idea here is to basically reduce human error, right? So traditionally, what you're having these kinds of solutions is that the person that is submitting the the receipt, they have to type in the information from the receipt. So you actually have to kind of like do the work twice, right? You have to submit the document, but you also have to type in the total amount of the receipt, tax, and so on. So the idea here is that you like you save some time because you don't need to type in the same information that is already on the document, but you also reduce human error because the AI has a much better success rate than humans doing this. So it's quite common that someone, when typing in the amount, the description of the receipt, they are going to make mistakes, right? So the AI may make mistakes, especially if the document is not so readable. So if the picture is kind of like shaky and you cannot read it, the AI may commit some mistakes there. But overall, it has a much, much, much better success rate than humans. So as long as the picture is fine, you probably won't have many mistakes during the process, right?
And it's
Um,
also way faster for the person submitting information because sometimes forms they require you to type everything because maybe the company doesn't want to type it. So uh, if your client or supplier or whatever, the only thing that you need to do is basically attach an image, a PDF, or any document that you need. It will going to automatically fill out all of the information that they need. So you can choose before you had to choose who had the burden of filling out all the information and make sure that it was correct. Now you can only have like you could only have just an attachment field. They would upload this information and that's it. And then you can ask additional information that's not present on the document and so on. So let's start building. I'm going to share here or your
cool.
screen. Let's go.
So the idea here is that we're going to build the process itself, and then we're going to activate the AI that is going to read the document. So first, we want the process itself. And all we need to do here is figure out what we want and then ask for the AI to build it for us. Of course, it's not going to be maybe 100% what we need from the get-go, but most of the time it's like 90%, and then all you have to do is like some minor adjustments to the process, to the colors, and so on. So what we're going to do here is click on this icon right here. This is the create icon, and this is going to bring up this panel here in which I can describe the process that I want, right? So in this case, I want an expense tracker Kanban board in which I can submit information, right? We always like to remind people that you don't have to just describe with text what you want. You can also submit images like a flow chart and spreadsheets. Basically, anything that you think that is going to help the AI to understand what you want, you could also upload here as well to help the final product be more in line with what you need, right? But for this case, we're just going to use text, right? It's going to suffice for this scenario. So the idea here is that we want an expense tracker. So I'm going to type in build an expense tracker app. It should be a Kanban board and with the stages. New, approved, and denied. Let's see here. And we also want a form in a separate tab and a dashboard with the total number of submissions in another tab. I could be more specific than this, right? But I'm going to make a general request, and then I'm going to tweak the app that the AI is going to build for us. And one thing that I'm going to do here that I like to do a lot is basically asking for a side menu, because I think navigation is a little bit easier with the side menu. If I don't ask for it, because it's like a small number of things, the AI is going to give preference to building a top menu navigation. And it works quite well a lot of the time. That's what you are going to want. I prefer the side menu, so that's what I'm going to be asking. So use
Also,
a
if you
side
have a
menu.
preference for other Jestor component and you already know their name, you can ask for it. Another thing that we also did was we defined the stages for our process, but you could also just ask for the choose the best stages for this, considering it's an expense tracker for a company that does X, or expense tracker and I am in the HR team or something. And then the AI will just use this information to build the best app possible. At least it's the best first version. That's why we always start building with AI, because the first version is really fast. And then after that, as we are going to do right now, we are going to customize it without using code, because it's just easier currently to just use the tools that we already have to make our solution the way that we actually want this to be. And yeah, that's basically it. So let's see what it has built for us.
Cool. So you guys can see that it already created the app. I just clicked on open app as soon as it popped up, and we're in the app, and it's basically what I asked for, right? One thing that I always like to mention is that I don't have to wait for the AI to build stuff. I could keep using Jestor. I could keep using other processes, building other stuff. It's just that we're in this live stream, so we waited for the AI to build so we can move on. But you don't have to wait for the AI to build. It builds in parallel, and then you can go back to the app as soon as it's done, right? But it's already created. You guys can see that it's quite fast, and it has all of the structure that I asked for. It has the Kanban board. It has the submission form in a separate like tab, right, in a separate item here in the menu. And then I have a dashboard as the third item with the total of submissions, which is exactly what I asked for, right? So it already did exactly what I wanted. But one thing here is that I don't know the fields that it used for this expense tracker app. So what I'm going to do here is just click on add expense to see. And there's an expense name, an amount, date, status, and description. And that's okay. That's basically what I would build for myself if I weren't using AI. Okay. So one thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to add the table itself to this menu to make it easier for me to build stuff and going back and forth between the Kanban board and the table. And when I say the table is because some people don't know this, but I'm using here the Kanban board, but the Kanban board is linked to a database. So if I'm using the Kanban board, it has a database running behind it. If I use the form to submit a new expense, this form feeds into a database. So the structure of the app itself is the database, and the interfaces, the Kanban board, the submission forms are the app itself. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back to home. You can see that the AI created a folder with everything it has created for this app. So I have here AI expense tracker. And I can see that the table is called expenses, right? So let me go back to the Kanban board app. And then I'm going to click here on build. And then I'm going to edit the menu. And then I'm going to go down here. I'm going to remove the favorites part. I don't want it in this app. I'm going to create a folder called app, which is basically the interfaces, right? The Kanban board, the submission board, the dashboard. And then I'm going to create a new folder called databases. What I'm calling here folder is basically this collapsible menu, right? So I'm going to create one called databases, and then I'm going to add expenses to this menu here. And you guys can see that it works just in this order that I've created stuff, right? So I have the app folder, which is collapsible with the items here, and I have the databases folder with the expenses table inside. So I'm going to save this. And okay, this makes it a little bit easier for me to use, to customize the process itself, because to customize the process, I'm going to have to customize the database. If I want new fields, if I want to change the forms, if I want to activate the AI document reader, I'm going to have to do this in the table. So this is why I brought this to the menu. It's a little bit easier to work this way. So actually, this is almost exactly the structure that I need for this process. And the only thing that's missing here is the document reader, right? And this is here in Jestor a field that we call attachment vision. So I'm going to create here a new field. I clicked on this plus icon, then I search for vision, and it's this field, attachment vision. And what this field does is it can read documents. So it can read invoices, receipts, like personal documents, anything that you could think of. But one thing that differentiates this document reader from Jestor from, like, for example, traditional OCRs, is that it doesn't only convert things into text, right? It doesn't just read the document. You can also add context. So the AI can read the information on the document and fill in a certain kind of field that is not exactly the field, a text in the document itself. What I mean by that is that, for example, if I had a field for a quantity and I sent the AI a picture of like 7 boxes, I could add in the context here, count the number of boxes, and then feed it into the number field, and it's going to do that. It's going to run an analysis on the document text and then provide a different answer, right? For this case, all we need is the information from the receipts, so we're not going to use this too much, but I think it's worth mentioning that you could also add context to make the AI fill fields with options that are not directly in the text, right? It could do like some sort of analysis, it can think, and then provide the information. So how does this field work? Basically, all I have to do is select the fields that it's going to fill with information after reading the document, after analyzing the document. So in this case, it's going to be expense name, the amount, the date, and the description. Okay. For this field, I'm going to call it receipt reader. Okay. Basically, what I'm telling the AI here is that I'm going to send a document here, and it's going to need to fill out this information automatically. And then I can add a little bit more of context here. So for expense name, provide a name that summarizes the receipt's content. And I think that's basically it. For description, provide the items in the receipt. Okay. So because I don't have, like, for example, I may not have a standardized field of description in the image itself, in the receipt itself. It's good for me to provide some context and tell the AI what it needs to do. If I didn't write this, the AI would still try to provide the best information that it thinks it fits here. But it works better if I provide the context when it's ambiguous, right? And then down here, there are some other things that I can set up. For example, I can add compression to the images because maybe I don't need a 4K picture over a receipt, right? It may only be necessary to have like a HD photo. And so compressing the image is better for performance. And so when later on you want to download or open the image, it's a little bit easier, especially if you don't have a fast connection. And I can also select this for only allow one file upload. And this is good for this process because I don't want people to like send 10 receipts in the same item, right? I want them to send one receipt per form submission. So I can toggle this so they can only send one picture here. But that's basically it. So I'm going to create this field now. And basically, all we have to do now is send the image. I don't have to send the amount. I don't have to send the date. I think I'm having connection issues here. But it's going to create. Okay. So basically the idea here is that all we have to do is send the image. We don't have to send any other type of context here. So let's go back to the Kanban board. Okay, and it created the AI reader here, right? So let's test it out before we start changing things in the process. I'm going to create a new record here, and you can see that I have all the fields, but I won't type anything in these fields. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to send a receipt here, and this is a receipt that we've created with AI, so it's a fake receipt, it's a mock receipt just for creating examples here. So I think I'm having a little bit of connectivity issues. My internet may be a little bit slow, but I think the upload is going to go just fine here. Cool. So this is the image, right? So we have this receipt for a steakhouse. We have a steak, baked potatoes, salad, and so on. So we have the total here. Okay, so we're going to send this information here. I'm going to click on save. And basically the AI is reading the text, and then it's going to fill out the information here. So let me see here. There you go. And you can see that it pulled the information from the receipt. So I have the receipt, I showed it before. We have these lines, we have this total, 3870, and we have a date here, and this is exactly the information that it created here. So let's do this again. But actually, before we do this, you can see here that I have a total and I have a text, right? I have a separate text here. So one thing that I could do is add another field here for text. And now I can make the AI fill this information as well. And all I have to do here is add this item here, item text. So, okay, so now the AI knows that it has to fill the text field as well. So let's save. And now we're going to run another test with a different receipt. So I'm going to send the image here. And as soon as it uploads, all I have to do is send information, and the AI is going to read this and fill out the information. So you guys can see that I don't have to, as an employee, I don't have to type the information. It's quite quick. So I could probably just take a picture of the receipt as soon as I paid for this expense and send to our team here. So let's see here, it already processed the image. And we have some amounts that are not like valid, right? We have text 11, subtotal 12, and it made a strange addition here. But that's because this is a fake receipt, this is a mock receipt. But the AI read the information exactly as it needed, right? So I have here safety glasses, I have the date of the expense, the total amount, and the text itself, right? So all in all, this is basically all we need for the process, right? Because the idea here is to have a very quick way for someone to send an image, send a receipt, and this is going to extract all the information, so they don't have to type in the information. So what we're going to do now is the final adjustments, which is basically changing a little bit of the form. And when we say form in Jestor, we're talking about creating records, but also when we open the record itself, right? So we can customize this left panel as well. And we're going to basically customize colors, right? And make the app a little bit more unique and a little bit more aligned with maybe our fictional company here. So let's talk about forms first, right?
Just one thing, like you can have more than one attachment vision field in your table. So if you have two types of documents, you can have one document that's going to see, I don't know, an ID, and the other vision field will be like a receipt or something. So you could do this for making it easier to just separate all the data that it needs to gather to fill out the information on your table. And the thing is, if it has like what if it has an image that's not an image of a recipe or an ID or something, it's going to alert you that it it actually didn't have enough information, or the quality of the image was not good enough. It's going to show you like an alert uh just on the side of the document. So if you are a person that's responsible for this process, you can start from documents that didn't work out. So the person didn't attach the correct document, or made a mistake or something like this. You will be able to just go there and ask the person to resubmit it, or do it again. And also, you could do this with the same record if you want to. Like, there's a way to use what we call an update form. and you could just ask the person resubmit it, or maybe change the information that's not correct and so on.
Exactly. So you could totally have like separate fields for analyzing different images, and basically mold this to your process, right? And then, like Bruno said, we have a little alert here because we're using a very simple example. I don't think I will be able to trigger the alert here because the AI is going to basically successfully read every document that I'm going to send to it. But if it failed to read a specific field, it would give here a little warning, right? So basically what I'm going to do now is customize the forms, right? And when we say forms in Jestor, we're talking about basically creation forms. So when I want to create a new expense, this we consider this a form. And when we open a record here, what you're seeing here on the left part is a form for us as well. It's an update form. So we're going to customize the update form just so you guys can see what we're talking about here. So I'm going to click here on forms, and I'm going to click here on edit table update form, which is basically the panel that opens up when you open a record. We can select the tools that are going to be usable when we open the record. And what we mean by that is if I open this record, these other panels are tools, right? SLA, tasks, chat. We have some other functions here. Um, for email, I don't think it's relevant here. Tasks maybe, chat okay, tasks okay. So we're going to remove some of the tools and we're just going to leave some available here. So you always have the freedom to choose what you're going to be using in this process, right? And for the window style, what I'm going to do here is open this as a right side window, for example. So instead of opening this as a window on the middle of the screen right now, as you're seeing, it's going to open as a side panel here. So I'm going to edit the form, and for the title of the form, which is this part here, I want to have the name of the receipt here. So I'm going to use the label as the title. So it's going to read as safety supply here. Um, I don't want any description. And what we want here is seeing all of the information, right? So expense name, it makes sense to be up here. And I can also add a description here. So a summary of the receipt's content. I have the amount and I have the tax. And for the amount, I can specify, right? That is subtotal plus tax, so people can know what this field is. The date, the status, and for the status, I can change the appearance. So here is a drop-down menu, but I could have other types of way of seeing this information. So I'm going to use button-like to show you guys what it means. The description, it makes sense to be, I think, right under the name. And I have the receipt reader, which is basically the image, so I can check on the image later on, right? And then after the fields, we have the blocks. The blocks are things that are not fields of information, but are things that you can use to customize the form further. So one thing that I'm going to do here is add a section. I think it looks nicer. So I'm going to call this section May Info. And it's going to cover all of the fields. And for amount and tax, I want them to be side by side. So one block that I can use here is inline. And then all I have to do is add here the inline and the fields between them. Okay, so I'm going to click on save so you guys can see part of the result, and it's already on the screen, right? So let's open a different one. And it open here up top. You have the name of the receipt, then you have the information, you have the descriptions, and everything is just as I had set them up to be, right? And one other thing that I can do here basically is color, right? So what I'm going to do here is just get, I'm going to edit this further. I'm going to click here on forms. I'm going to go back to the update form.
They changed
Um,
a lot, right? Like before, it was a lot of information, full screen, and with a few clicks, we have a completely different way to fill out information or check data.
exactly. So it's quite easy to make things a little bit easier to use. For this process, when I don't have a lot of information, maybe it's a little bit better just to have the side panel, right? Because all I want to do is check on the information and I can keep using the platform without covering all of my screen here, right? So now if I open up one record here, there you go. So I've customized the colors and that's all I'm going to do here. If I want to use one of the other tools, if I wanted to create a task, I can just come here and create a task, but this is all I want. So um, I could also customize the form for creation, right? When I click here on new row. But the idea here is that I'm not going to be using the table itself directly, right? I want to use a form, which may even be a public form. You can create public forms if you want to. So instead of customizing the form directly on the table, what I'm going to do here is customize the submission form, and then I'm going to use this form in other places in Jestor. For example, in the Kanban board. So you guys are going to see what I mean by that. So let me click here on edit. One thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to customize the background. Instead of being a dark mode, I want things to be white. And I'm also going to disable scrolling in this page. And what this means is make the page like a fixed size, right? So it doesn't matter if the person zooms in, zooms out, the amount of components that you have on your screen, everything is going to be within the same space, right? So after I do this, what I can do here is make it so the form takes all of the screen. And you can see that I'm covering all of the screen because I have this line on the bottom showing the end of the app page. Okay, so I'm going to click here on save. I could customize the font as well. We have different fonts here, but I'm not going to do that now. So let's change the form, and let's see here, expense form. This is going to be the name that I'm going to give. So the title that appears here up top, and you guys can see that when I edit a form, it also automatically updates the screen, so I know what I'm doing here. So it's this form is going to be called expense form, expense submission form. Sorry. Fill out this form to submit a new expense. So this text already fits. And one thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to remove some of the stuff here, right? Because I don't need the person to submit the expense name, the amount, the date, and anything like that. So I'm going to remove them because the AI is going to do that automatically. But I'm going to leave the status, and I'm going to tell you guys why in a minute. But one thing that I'm going to do here is add the receipt reader. And I'm going to place it up top. And then I'm going to create a section. Expense reader, and this form is powered by AI. All you have to do is send a picture of the receipt. So I'm kind of guiding the person through the process, right? So I'm going to do this. Okay, there you go. And why do I have the status here? Because we have three status, right? We have new, we have approved, and we have denied. And if I don't send the status info, it's not going to go to any of these statuses, right? So one thing that I can do here is edit the status field, and I'm going to give it a predefined value of new. So whenever a person tries to use this form, it's going to go to new. But I also don't want the person to see the status field because they may change it. They may send it to approved, for example. So one thing that I can do is hide the field. So the field is going to be hidden. The person is not going to be able to change it, but it's always going to go to new. So this is the reason why I left the status here. So all we have to do now is customize the colors. So let's go with the blue that I got on the other part. There you go. And let's save. And then this part up top, I'm also going to edit this title bar here. There you go. So let's go back to the Kanban board and the app itself. You guys can see here that if I go to the submission form, it already reflects the changes that I made. So now let's edit this form, right, and this menu. So let's edit the menu. We're going to change the color, and we could also add the logo of our company here if we wanted to, right? It would go here up top. We're not going to provide a logo, but we can change the text here. So we're going to call it expenses. And for the bottom part, which is this one, we're going to go with a light blue, even lighter, I think, and a little bit grayer. Okay, so let's save. We're also going to change this here, this top bar. We're going to change the color to the same blue that we used before. And the bottom is going to be white, right? So let's save. And now one thing that I'm going to do here is that we already have a good form for creating the expense in the Kanban board, right? Which is this submission form here. So what I'm going to do is link this button to that form. And what I'm going to do is pull from the source, import from a different app page. The app page is called submission form. You guys can see here on the left. And then I'm going to select the form that's within that page, right? And also instead of doing it as a side panel, I'm just going to show you guys that we can do, like, for example, full screen. We can change this later. Let's just show you guys how it works. So when I click here, it gets that form as well. We're actually going to change that because I prefer the side panel for this process. We don't have much information here, right? So we can change that as well. So let's use a right side panel. Okay. And now what we have to do here is customize the background so it's white. We're going to disable scrolling. We're going to make it so the Kanban board goes all the way to the bottom of the screen. And this is just dragging and dropping, like resizing stuff and such. And now I'm going to edit the Kanban board, and I'm going to make the cards white. I think it looks a little bit nicer. I could add different colors as well, but I'm going to go with white for now. And I think that's mainly it. I'm going to remove the option to create cards directly in some fields, right? So here.
You could remove the stage field as well because it's just repeating.
Oh, exactly. I'm going to remove the status, and I'm also going to add the receipt so we can see the image on the card, right? So I'm going to save. I'm going to now let's try to use this here. We're going to go with a final receipt here. And I'm going to upload this, see if everything is working fine. Everything seems to be in order.
Just
So
as
I'm
a
going to submit this.
comparison, we did a similar template last year. I think it was last year or a few months ago. It was way more complex because we had to add automations and so on. And now with the vision field, it's just adding a field. Most of the heavy lifting the AI did for us, for building and for reading information. So what we did here was just making it better for the user to manage the process or check if the information is correct and everything. But it's huge difference from the previous version of this. The same process, a different solution, but same kind of process.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a little bit easier and it works way way better now as well, right? So one thing that I did here is I added the image to the front, the cover of the card on the Kanban board, so you guys can see that I could just click on it to see the information, so it's a little bit easier. But if I wanted to check all of the information, I can just click on it and I have all of the content here. So this is basically the process, right? One final thing that we would have to do here basically is just editing this form. Um, we could do some other stuff here. So let's go with, yeah, let's change this color. And I'm also going to make it white. There you go. And now I can just go here and I could.
One that's I think it would be interesting to do here. Maybe it's easy. It's the approval rate, because it's usually you want to approve everything because you assume that the person knows like the rules and everything. So the approval rate, I think, is interesting. Indicator is quite simple to build as well.
Yeah, cool. Let's do this. So for the approval rate, what we want is the total of finalized tickets, right? We don't want all of the tickets because if you have a lot of tickets in the triage part, it's going to skew your indicator. But what we want is get all of the finalized tickets that were all of the approved tickets and divide this by all the finalized tickets. So we can use the complex indicator for that, right? So let's create it here. So we can go with approval rate. And the operation we're going to use this is a ratio, right? So one number divided by the other. And the number up top, like I said, is going to be all of the approved submissions. So we're going to count the number of cards, of records, and we're going to add a filter here, which is basically getting everything that is approved. And then we're going to define the bottom part. We're going to divide by this number, which is the total number of cards. But in this case, it's not only everything that is approved, but also that is denied, right? Because this is my total amount of finalized cards. So I can click here and I'm going to create. And there you go. You have the approval rate. You guys can see here that I have 0.71, which is basically 71%. If I want to see this as a percentage, I just have to click here, show as percentage, and I'm going to save here. And you guys can see here that I have 71% approval rate. And one cool thing is that it's showing me how it's coming to this conclusion, right? So I have 5 cards in approved. I have 7 both in approved or as denied. So I have an approval rate of 71%. And I could keep building stuff here, right? I could add charts. I could have other types of indicators. I could have calendars for the expenses and so on. So I could add a lot of stuff here to the dashboard. I'm not going to do this right now. So I just want to show you guys the almost finalized app. So we have the Kanban board. We can click here on add expense. All we have to do is send the receipt. It's going to read the stuff automatically and send here to new. And if I click here, I have all of the information that the AI has extracted from the receipt automatically, right? We have the submission form, and this is separate because, yeah, we could use this form, and this form could also be public, right? So you could have a public link that you share within your company or with contractors or something like this. And then we have the dashboard. One last thing that I wanted to show you guys here in the Kanban board is that we have a lot of nifty features here. For example, we have a new feature which is adding colors to the titles of the cards. So for this taxi cab receipt, for example, maybe this is approved, but it's approved with some observations. Maybe the process wasn't followed as thoroughly as it should be. So I could add a different color here. I have to activate the color in the Kanban board. So let's click here. And where is it?
Title highlight.
There you go. There you go. So let's refresh the screen. I think I didn't save. Maybe it's my connection here. Let's see. Highlight.
One thing that's interesting about the AI builder is that it not only built the interface, but also all the tables, all the structure that you actually need for a functional app. So this is an app that you can use right now. You don't need to publish it or anything like this. So it's basically adding people to your app or creating some permissioning rules and sharing the link for them to just start filling out information.
Exactly. So I think I had connection issues. It's not saving. So we're going to stop here for now. I think there's some other stuff that we could do here. We could add filters here up top, right? So we could have a calendar. So we could select a range of expenses so I can see all of certain expenses. I could add a filter for the person who submitted the expense. So I can see everything that Banak did or everything that I did. So we could keep iterating and building more and more here. But the main part of the app is what we showed you guys. We had two purposes here to show you guys how to use AI to build a process. So all we had to do here was ask for the AI to build it for us. We just gave it a brief description of what we wanted, and it built it, and it built it. And then we use AI to read the information, and it's what we have here, right? We sent a receipt, and it got all of the information correctly. So I don't know. Do you think there's anything else that it would be nice if we showed here?
No, we are going to be back here next week, same time, doing another example. And if you have any suggestions or questions, please send to us or comment on this video, and we are going to address it on the next video. Thank you.
Thanks.